All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Inclusion Matters with Inclusion Pro Wrestling. We've got today Mr. I don't know if he's just fresh from the garbage can or fresh from the pasture, Rex Michelson. He thinks he's a wrestling god, but, I still have to call him a wrestling crippled messiah. I still don't think you know the lick about wrestling. We've also got in the screen our our supervising producer, the man, the myth, the legend, the goat, the Hall of Famer, Mr. 15,000, T frickin' Rex.
Oh,
And then of course, I'm the man that every woman wants.
oh Lord.
I'm the reason this podcast is successful. I'm the heartbreaker. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So, and of course, our guest tonight is Mr. Kobe Smith. And why don't you go ahead and start out, Kobe, and let us know a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I was born in the state of Oregon, so the city of Portland. I moved around a lot as a kid. I'm built from Los Angeles, California, because I feel like that's the time period where I really found myself as a child. And going in between Los Angeles and Eastern Oregon in the summer times, working out in the scrap yards. That's how I got this. Just working hard my whole life. Coming back to the state of Oregon as a teenager and finishing school as a three-sport athlete, and that's pretty much how I got into wrestling. Just wanting to challenge myself and wanting to try the next step, and really prove that I have a lot to bring to the table.
Very nice. Um, can you tell us a little bit about your experience in the BC? Let's see, BBC. Sorry, I had to think about.
My experience so far in the Brothers Black Color. So I will admit I'm not one of the two original members would be the Black King Deontay and J. Mar Sims. They are the two original members. I guess you could say I'm number 3 or 4, depending on where you put me and Shikari. But my experience with the Brothers Black Color so far has been very enlightening, very educating. I've been put under the wing of some great talent, and I've been places that I would have never been to if I was just on my own as just myself. And that's all thanks to me being a part of the group. So, it's a big blessing being a part of that group. Every match that they've been in my corner, every tag match I've been in with them together, every spot I've ever gotten in a battle royal, I can owe to being a part of the Brothers Black Color. So that's a really big part of my career, I'd say so far.
Very nice. So,
Well, I'm gonna let Mr. Pasture Grazer ask a question. So go ahead, Mr. Rex.
Okay. What's it like to be in a faction that is part of your career?
I'm sorry, one more time. I didn't hear you too hard. I'm sorry.
What's the best? What's the reason why you're in the faction through your career?
So it's the biggest. Oh,
Yeah,
the
who's the
Brothers Black
biggest
Color.
faction? Yeah,
I'm sorry. You said the biggest match or the biggest?
biggest faction you've been in your career so far.
Oh, the biggest faction.
Your go.
So far, I mean, I've tagged with a couple other people here and there, but I'd say it's definitely the Brothers Black Color. I'm still very fortunate to be in the position that I am in this business at all. And like I said in the previous question, I just owe it all to being a part of that group. Without that group, I'd pretty much just be like, whether it be Kobe or Kobayas Tops, I'd just be on my own, and it'd be really hard to, swim in the waters by yourself. But to have people, that pretty much pull you out of the water, they put you on the boat, they teach you how to fish, they teach you how to swim, they teach you all the skills that you would need to know in order to progress in this business. That means a lot to me.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So, what are some of your post-match and pre-match routines?
So pre-match, a lot of stretching, a lot of stretching. Some people, they probably look at me funny because they're like, what is this guy over there doing? He's doing laps in the back hallway and he's trying to break a sweat. I don't like to get too slippery or too pumped up before my matches, but definitely some push-ups or maybe some lion rolls. A lot of hydration, a lot of water, and post-match, I'd say within like an hour or so after the match, when my body starts to calm down, try to get some food in me. After burning so many calories, that could range from chicken and rice, maybe a hamburger, something like that. Same thing, lots of stretching, lots and lots of water. Just the same thing almost to like a pre or post workout. You want to be really prepared, especially when you're in there competing against, other athletes. You want to be on point. So it's really important to me to make sure that I'm nice and stretched out. If we have time before the matches to get a lot of rolls in the ring, tie up with other wrestlers, make sure that your technique is on point. So that way you can avoid not just injuring yourself, but injuring other people, and always being prepared, always learning more knowledge from other people, before and after the matches. That's really important to me. So.
All right, Mr. Goat wants to ask a question here. So what I will say to that is, so I like to get a little controversial at times. So I guess I'll bring it up on the air one time and one time only. What's your thoughts on Jakari Smith?
Oh, is that his last name? Jakari Smith?
Whatever it is, I
was-
don't know. Jakari, something, Jakari guy, I guess. I don't know. I'm asking about Jakari.
Jakari is somebody that I met upon entering Blue Collar Wrestling almost about a year ago in September, when my career first really took off. And he's I don't have anything bad to say about Jakari, because honestly, I'd say the same way that people looked at me when I was his age and said, this kid has a lot of potential, this kid can go far. I can only say the same thing about him. Like, he's such an open book. He's got so much size and so much strength, and he's got so much to bring to the table. And I don't have any. If he's controversial, I don't know anything about that. I just know that whenever we have a match, I'm always in his corner. He's in my corner. Whenever we've had to drive, let's say to like Milwaukee or somewhere deep, he's always been in the car with me. And he's somebody that I could definitely say will have my back, and I have his back too. So I think that's really important in this business, to have somebody like that 5-10 years from now, whether or not I'm still involved in this business, I know that Jakari Frost is definitely still going to be involved, and he's got a lot of bigger things coming in his future.
So, who were some of your wrestling heroes growing up?
Ooh, that's a tough one. See, that's the kind of question that's tough for me, because I looked up to a lot of people, but growing up, like, not to get into who I studied, but growing up, it was the Ruthless Aggression era. And if you weren't watching the Ruthless Aggression era of North Company, then you were watching, like NWA TNA with guys like AJ Styles and, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels. I'll never forget, in 2005, I had never seen wrestling outside of, the big corporate promotion. And me and my brother were surfing through the old Comcast On Demand. I don't even know if that's still a thing anymore. And we saw that they had wrestling in there for free. And I remember watching this match. It was AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe for the X Division title. And it was the first ever match I'd ever seen outside of a big corporate company. And I thought that the X title was the main title, because it was in the main event. And I was watching this match, and even to this day, whenever I watch that match again, it just gives me chills because that was the match that made me think, like wrestling's not just this thing on television. That's when I started doing my research on the internet and reading lots of books from the library, and I realized, that this is bigger than me. This is bigger than the guys involved. Like, this is a history, and when you get in that ring, when you get into this business, like, you have to have respect for every single person that came before you. And so that was one of those matches that really opened my eyes to the wrestling business as a whole, and not just the guys on top making the most money, but the guys that are down there grinding, whether or not they get top dollar, just doing it because they love it and training almost harder than the guys that are on top of the business because they wanted that bad. And all three of those guys that I just named, you can see them all on the big channels now today because they earned it and they worked their ass off for it. And so, to me, if you really want to know, like, those are like guys like that, guys like, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, guys like Kurt Angle, you just like Eddie Guerrero, watching guys that they just bleed for this business, like they don't have to get paid for it. Like they bleed for it and they do it because they love it. They do it in front of 10 people, 100 people, 100,000 people, 1,000,000 people. They just do it any day of the week because they just love doing this. So, those are the guys that made me want to cut my teeth into the business and really, really get down and dirty with it.
That is very cool, and I agree. That match between the three of them was no pun intended with AJ Styles, but it was phenomenal. So
Absolutely, I agree.
So, anybody else have a question? If not, I can ask another one.
I do have a question. So, what is your favorite? What's your favorite like WrestleMania like style moments or like matches? If you could create a card from top to bottom.
Ooh, like
a
my own
6-match,
personal dream.
like a 5 or 6 match card, and you were booking it. What would be your like 5 or 6 matches that you could that you would want to see?
Oh man, at the top of my list, it'd be Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle, hands down. Whether or not it's for a title, and a feud, a 2 out of 3 fall submission match, whatever it is, I think the fact that those two guys never got to work a match is a crime. It's an absolute crime. And then, we're talking about the business, so not just the matches that I'd want to see, but I feel like matches that would draw and people that would want to see, Goldberg and Austin, or maybe Austin versus Hogan, because that's one of those matches that just never ever happened. Guys barely even made eye contact with each other. You know what I mean? Like those are 2 matches right off the top of my head that I can give you. If you want another one, Shawn Michaels and Eddie Guerrero. The fact that they never ever had a match is also a crime, and somebody should be in jail for that shit, because that would have been one of the greatest matches of all time. I'm not just talking about in terms of moves and work rate, but in terms of the story and like getting the people involved. Like that would have been just money raining from the ceiling on that one. And
I
then,
agree. I agree. Lock Vince up. I agree.
And then if I had 2 more, man, that's tough when you start getting down to the bottom. I guess like maybe who's somebody that I haven't used yet? I've already used all the big names. Maybe like a tag match of some sort, because I love tag team wrestling as well. It doesn't have to be somebody from WWE or WCW, ECW. It could be anybody. It could be like the Steiner brothers, maybe versus like somebody that was hot back in the day, like the Hardy Boys or something like that. Just a match we never really got to see. And I think it would have made, the Hardys were extremely innovative and they were great wrestlers, even though they could do all the high flying stuff. They were great wrestlers as well. And then the Steiner brothers, those are just, man, I could watch those guys wrestle all day long, almost like American Alpha and the Revival, where I could just watch those guys wrestle for hours and hours and never ever get bored. Like, that's a match that I think would have been great. And then number 5, Ooh, I'll give you a women's match, I guess. Maybe like take somebody like a Charlotte Flair or Trish Stratus or somebody that's a great wrestler with a name, and put them up against like Medusa or somebody like that from back in the day, or Moolah. You know, something that would draw, but also would have been a great match. Same thing as the other matches, not just in the ring, but in terms of building and storytelling and you know, showing all the aspects of the wrestling business all in one. So there's like a solid 5 wrestling card right there. You can mix in all those names and all those different spots, but to me, like those that's like the pinnacle of the business right there. At least it's just in my opinion. I don't want anybody to think that I think that's exactly how it should have happened, because what we got was history. You know what I mean? I have no complaints about the matches that we did get at all the manias and all the big shows, but I think that that would have been a great card if I, you know, was in heaven booking my all-time wrestling cards. So
That's a very, very good card.
That
Thank
would
you.
be. I would watch it.
So, since you said you like tag teams, unless Heartbreaker, do you have a question? I'll give him a minute. to
Hang
get on
on.
the computer.
oh no,
He's coming back. He just switched from his phone to his computer.
oh
Alright.
okay, that's fine, that's fine.
Yep. No.
There we go.
Okay. So let's see here. Did we do the top 5 tag teams yet? If not, then what are your top 5 tag teams of all time?
You know, I'll probably get a lot of crap for this one because I know a lot of people love their tag teams, but to me, there are a lot of guys that were individuals, that were singles wrestlers, and you put them in a team, and they just dominated. They absolutely dominated. And I can't rank them in a top 5, but for me, like in terms of actual tag teams, let's just say honorable mentions. Of course, like I said, the Hardy Brothers, the Steiner Brothers, the Revival, FTR, whatever you want to call them, American Alpha when they were a team, Harlem Heat, the Hart Foundation. I know that's more than 5 right there, but those are teams, like I said, I could just watch them all day. And then in terms of who I think was really the best, man, like if you go back to TNA and you watch Bad Influence, which was Daniels and Kazarian, and they take on Styles and Angle, like you put a gold medalist with once again, no pun intended, a phenomenal wrestler like AJ Styles, and they were just unstoppable. They were just you didn't think that would ever be a team, and they absolutely killed it. One of my other favorite tag matches ever was Triple H and Austin when they had all the gold and they defended against Benoit and Jericho. Like all those guys are singles wrestlers. All those guys are singles wrestlers, but it's like one of the greatest tag team matches I've ever seen in my life. Where it's like, oh my god, like the emotion, the work rate, and that's one of my matches that I like to go back to because in 01, you know, Austin was extremely over. Triple H, you know, he was over too, and they didn't have to work as hard as they did, but they worked hard, and they didn't have to do that. They could have just went in there and did, you know, their stuff that was over and went home. But they went hard in that match, and that was after all those guys had all sorts of surgeries. I think Triple H, that's the match where he tore his quad. Like those guys, they did not have to do that night, but they just went all out. And to me, like those are a couple of examples of teams where, like, even though they're not a tag team, maybe like the Steiner Brothers would be, or the Hart Foundation, but those are guys that they just showed you could put me in any spot and I'll give you $1 million match. You know, you can put me anywhere on the card, and people are going to be like, nah, that was the main event right there. Those guys tore it up. So I just gave you like 10 names. I know you asked for 5, but that's like to me, there's like tag teams where they're like a brotherhood. But even the guys where they're just 2 singles wrestlers put together, and they just show you like we'll beat anybody. You know, we'll do this against anybody. So.
I completely agree with that. I think the one nowadays that kind of reminds me of that, speaking of like Alpha Academy, is, the American Alpha would be the Alpha Academy. You know, that's two guys that were part of other
Absolutely.
tag teams, but now that they're together, kind of willing to work with anybody. So
Oh yeah, and they're doing excellent work too. Like that's Gable and Otis. You know, both of them. Gable's extremely entertaining on the mic. Otis is extremely entertaining with his facial expressions and everything he does. And then when the bell rings, it's almost just like Kurt Angle, where they can be funny and they can be entertaining, but as soon as that bell rings, it's on, and they're giving you everything that they got, and you're going, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, these guys aren't just fooling around. Like they can really go. So
absolutely.
yeah, I agree with you 100% on that.
So, Mr. Goat, do you have another question?
Actually, I do. What kind of advice
your
would you
top-
give?
We said the goat, not the goat that lives in the pasture.
You just cut me off, really? Could you put that man's on mute for a minute? Put him on mute.
Okay, go ahead.
What new advice can you give to like new promoters and stuff like that, new podcasters out there that can keep them successful and not like fall flat?
I'd say what always has kind of worked for people that I followed, and that's just be original. Don't, like, if you have an idea, you don't have to run it past 20 guys. Maybe there's a couple people in your inner circle that you run ideas by, and they help you polish them, and they help you get better. But just do you. Be original. Live by your own code, and people will tune in, not based off of the topics that you're talking about, the clickbait. People will tune in because they genuinely want to listen to you, and they genuinely want to hear what you have to say, and you give good inclusion and good opinions and good, not just opinions, but facts as well, where, you're always double checking your stuff. So, in my opinion, yeah, like, not to plug anybody else at the same time, but, I've listened to a lot of different podcasts over the years that I think that they're here and they kind of go up and down. And even if they gain a lot of viewers, they just start to lose their authenticity. But I listen to the K100 podcast every once in a while, and those guys just shoot it straight. They're not hating, they're stating. If something's good, they put it over. If something's bad, they'll tell you why and how it could get better. They interview people with no filter. They give honest opinions and honest stories from the business. If there's something that they don't know about, they don't touch it. And they just go, hey, man, I don't know nothing about that. We're going to have them on the show and ask them. So, yeah, just be original. Just be yourself. And people will naturally gravitate towards you based off of that.
All right. Now, Mr. Pasture Goat, you can ask your question.
What is your top 5 indie male wrestlers of all time?
Top 5 indie wrestlers?
Yep.
Indie male wrestlers of all time.
Oh, indie male wrestlers. Like, could I see some guys that maybe used to be independent, or do they have to be independent right now? Like, they never got a deal?
No, you can say one all time. So ones that used to be, ones that are now, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. Perfect. All right. Man, there's a lot of guys that got signed. They used to be underdogs, but I'll go with some different guys that I mentioned before. I'd say like guys like Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Man, who are those cats I was just thinking of? Santana and Ortiz. Now they're signed, but I remember watching them when they were independent and they were wrestling in New York and places like that. And I was like, man, these guys are freaking incredible. Like, it blew my freaking mind. A lot of guys from like the Defy sort of DOA era back in the day before it was really popping over here. I'd say guys like Ethan HD, Swerve before he got signed, when he was just the independent version of himself. El Phantasmo, he used to wrestle in the Northwest a lot, and he's another guy that I used to watch, just on somebody's old YouTube camera, posting a YouTube video from 10 years ago, just going like, holy crap, like these guys are incredible. How are they not on, this stage or this stage? Yeah, I'd say that's a couple of them. I never followed the trend. Like, I know who the Young Bucks are and guys like that, but to me, that wasn't like those guys. Even though they were independent, they were so hot that it was like so easy to follow them. You know what I mean? Like they better had a contract at that point. But to me, I guess I'll give you one more. And even though he's a big name, when somebody like Cody Rhodes walked away from all the big money, he walked away from everything, and he went to promotions. He helped set up the ring, shook everybody's hand. He wrestled in front of 50 people at times. You know what I mean? Like that's, to me, that's what this business is built up. Like he took it all away. He went to the bottom, and just slowly, it took him years and years and years and years and years till he finally got to the point where he's at now. So, just guys where they show up, they're quiet, they shake everybody's hand, and you know that when that bell rings, they're just going to give it everything. Whether or not there's a camera rolling or anything like that. But yeah, and I don't want to overdo this topic, but like I said, I mentioned his name before, and I feel like I should shed some more light on it. Ethan HD, that's a guy that I was watching because, especially as a black man, seeing a guy where it's like, wow, like it is possible. You know what I mean? Look at him. He's at DOA. Look at him. He's at the Canadian promotion. He's at all these different places, and he's not stopping. He keeps going. He keeps pushing to the limit. And that's somebody that I looked up to back when I was in high school, when I was like, you know what, if I do decide to do pro wrestling, that's a pretty good template of somebody that you could, see that they did it. They got tryouts. They went overseas and trained with professionals and all that sort of stuff. So, in terms of indie wrestlers before I broke in, and people, not just people that I know, but those are the guys that I definitely say that I looked up to on the independent. So,
very nice.
All right. So, in your opinion, sir, who's the best wrestler turned actor?
Who's the best wrestler and what?
Best wrestler turned actor.
People are gonna hate me for this one, but The Rock, hands down, The Rock, no questions asked.
I can see that.
In terms of a lot of people didn't like Black Adam. I did. I thought it was a badass movie. I was just rewatching a lot of like the Fast and the Furious, and when he shows up, it's like, people say all the time, like, man, in every movie he's just The Rock, and it's like, okay, so was Arnold, so was Sylvester, so was all those other guys. They did the same thing, even though they had a different character. Like, if you go watch Kindergarten Cop, even though he does a good job acting and doing a different role, it's still fucking Arnold. And I'm sorry, but I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on here. But when he yells at the little girl and he says, "Put the ball back," like that. That's just the same Arnold that we get in every movie. You know what I mean? So when the Rock shows up on screen and he's big as hell and he's bringing the heat and he's going, he's saying all his catchphrases. It's like, people like to hate because they just like to hate. But to me, it's like, that guy worked his ass off to be in the spot that he's in. And he, like, even though Dave, like, honorable mention, of course, Dave Bautista, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Stuber, all the other movies that he's done. He's another great example of how to transfer to Hollywood. But hands down, The Rock, hands down, like, that guy, he has completely transformed himself into a whole nother spectrum. And the way that he's able to do all that stuff, and then he comes back to WWE every once in a while, and he gives it back to the business, you know what I mean? And then he goes back to Hollywood, and he makes some more money, and he does some more adventures, and then he'll do another appearance, That brings all of that back to the wrestling business. And people can say, oh, that's up there. That affects us, too, on this level. People can look at wrestling in a mainstream light and be not just entertained by it, but take it serious and get invested in stuff, Like, that, to me, that's really important. Like hands down, it'd be Dwayne the Rock Johnson in terms of wrestler went Hollywood actor.
So we have a mutual acquaintance in Draven Marcus. I was actually at the training school that Draven did, and I was wondering, do you have any good stories about Draven Marcus? And if not, I have a few. So,
I've known Draven probably for a better part of a year now, and to say a specific story is hard because every time I'm with him, he's one of my favorite people I've met in the business so far. I gotta say, like, he's always on point. He's always, and mentally, he's always there. He's one of those guys where you could tell that when his music hits, whatever is going on in his head, he just puts it all behind and he goes out there and he gives you the best damn match that he can possibly give you. I have a lot of respect for that guy, and the couple times that I've wrestled him, he's always given me that sort of, like, when you tie up with somebody, you can feel it. When you're going in there with them, you can feel it. And he's one of those guys that I feel it with, where I'm like, you know what, I don't know, like, how much of his respect that I've earned, but if I have any sort of place in this business so far to give anybody respect, definitely got to give it to Draven. Every time I've been in the ring with that man, like, I just get better. I learn so much, and just listening to him and the way he feeds the knowledge to you and brings you in for stuff, and then he gets you when you least expect it. But it's always a good time when Draven's around. You know, I got nothing but respect for that man. You could tell that he worked for his spot in this business, and he's one of the guys that you should listen to.
absolutely. So you got a question, Heartbreaker or Mr. Billy Goat or whatever you're calling yourself?
Billy Goat? Really?
How about the top 5 commentators of all time?
Jim Ross, Jerry the King Lawler, Michael Cole. I know a lot of people don't like Cole, but I think he's earned his stripes. God, there's probably a lot of people from the older days that I might not mention because it just wasn't my era, and I've done my homework from back in the day. But in terms of remembering, you know, all the commentators' names, it's not as easy for me. But Don West, when Don West was paired with Mike Tenay at TNA, I thought they did a fantastic job together. R.I.P. Don West. And my number 5, it's like a cross between a couple people. Like I really like same thing. Maybe it wasn't everybody else's favorite, but I really like JBL on commentary, because he had that sort of, like, he was in the NFL. You could tell that he'd been in some fights. He always had this line that he would say, like, everybody got a game plan till they get socked in the mouth. You know what I mean? Like, everybody got their little shtick. Everybody, especially back in the era that he's from, you know, you really get socked in the fucking mouth. You know, if you was talking shit, you know, like you don't want to be stuck in a locker room somewhere with that drunk ass Texan when you dissed him or did something you weren't supposed to do. He gonna give you the business, and then if you try to go cry to somebody, oh, JBL hit me, they're gonna be like, toughen up, kid. So those are JBL is kind of the same thing, and like Jerry the King Lawler, in my opinion, where you can hear it in his voice, like he got some real stories to tell. So people try to say like, oh, the greatest move by move commentator, that wasn't always my guys. My guys were the guys who could take the picture and who would tell you like, man, that reminds me back in Memphis when I got knocked the fuck out, or that reminds me back in Texas. You know, when I thought I was big shit and somebody taught me a lesson. You know, that's why they're so hard. So yeah. So those would probably be my top 5. I guess like I could throw maybe one more in there. I think I mentioned Mike today when he was with Don West, but then I'll mention him on his own entry when he was in WCW, because whenever you would hear like Tony Schiavone would get really emotional, or maybe Larry Zbyszko or somebody else, what it would be like, oh, like cruiserweights are too small, their moves aren't as effective. Mike Tenay would come in and he'd explain why. And even the most crazy thing in WCW could happen. When they come back from commercial break, Mike Tenay would have the most educated reason on why the craziest shit happened, and he would make you understand, even the shit that you would be like, man, that made no fucking sense. Mike Tenay would make you believe, okay, that's why that happened. Yeah, that's exactly why that happened. Okay, oh yeah, you know what? That's why they call you the professor. You know, we like you. You know, so. If I had top commentators, it'd definitely be those guys. Yeah.
Mr. Hall of Famer, do you have a question?
Well, I always have a question now that Mr. Goatface is finally gone. Yeah, and I think this guy calls himself Rex. No, my question for you is now you've been in the business probably about what, 5 or 6 years?
Training wise, yes. In terms of performing and being like sort of on my own and with different groups, about a year. But like I stated before, first time I ever stepped in the ring was December 2016, and 2017 is when my training really took off and I started taking it really serious.
Okay, so my question is what's your favorite match you've had in the time that you've been wrestling?
Ooh. It's a tie. The first one, I'd say I have to put this one above the second one, so I guess I'll give you the second one first. It was Kobe versus Troy Prescott with Tyson Lee in his corner at BCW in Milwaukee. That match was one of those matches where I didn't just feel it with another wrestler. And that match, it wasn't just for me. That was one of those matches where I really started to understand what this is really all about. And being in there with a guy as technical as Troy, and with Tyson giving me the heat, like he was giving me everything he had on the outside of the ring, like, and just really like you don't just like, not just the crowd kind of getting into it, but when you really hear them care and you really feel what that's like, it's just like they say, it's like a drug where like there's nothing like it, man. Like, and I had a lot of family in the crowd that night. I remember my uncle, he was truck driving around the U.S. and he literally stopped in Portland just to see that match. My cousins were there, and just being able to really I didn't get the victory in that match, but to hear how much the crowd cared when the 3 count happened, like that was one of those matches where I really started to like, okay, that's what this is really about. Like this is why we're here. There's the phrase again. This is why we're here. They used to tell me that all the time in training. This is why we're here. And then so that's one match. Much respect to Troy Prescott for that one. And then the other match was against the guy that was in his corner. It was in RWA, Rogue Wrestling Attractions, versus TNT Tyson Lee. And that was another match where like it wasn't just me in there doing it for myself. Like I could feel the crowd. They were inside of me. Like not to be too weird or off-putting, but that's what happens when you really choose to stick with this business. I could really, like, I learned so much from those 2 guys in those 2 matches. And like I definitely would say that match that I had with Tyson Lee and RWA, that changed me as a person. Like the kind of respect that I didn't just have for the business, but for people after taking that kind of ass whooping and giving it back, and just like the knowledge that went through my mind, and like you can't just teach that on a chalkboard. You know, you can't just teach that studying tape. That's one of those where you really got to go out there. And he told me before the match, he said, put up or shut up time, you know, let's see if you really fucking got it. And he gave it to me, you know, he really fucking gave it to me in that match. But that was one of those where like, I was like holding back tears as they were raising my hand, because I just couldn't believe that after everything that I did in my life, that was possible. And not only just be able to do that, like just to be a wrestler, but to be in such a heated feud, and to make people really, really get behind you, and make people really go, okay, this isn't just some kid who's just phoning it in, you know, he really, like, he belongs in this ring. And as long as he keeps showing up and he keeps keeping his mouth shut and paying his dues, you know, as long as he keeps, you know, training on his own, like, he's going to find something, you know, like he's got something that other people can work with. So it's like, I love both of those matches, but I'd have to say the one-on-one with Tyson Lee and Ocean Shores, Washington for RWA, that match changed my life. That was one of those matches that I'll never forget. Like, even if I have dementia in a nursing home someday, that match is still going to be engraved in my mind. And I got nothing but respect for this business after that match. So, absolutely.
Heartbreaker, you got a question?
Well,
Sorry
I think.
about that.
Oh no, it's okay. I perfectly understand. Now, Mr. Goat, did you just come back from the pasture or something? Or are you dying to ask a question?
Are you talking about me?
No, not you.
I said Mr. Goat. This guy's like, no.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pasture Goat. You just came back from the pasture. Are you wanting a question? No. Okay.
So I'll follow it up real quick before you ask a question. I'm a BCW original. Okay. So I've been with that. I was with that company from the first day. I just off record and off topic real quick. I think they've been around 11 years now, something like that. And I know I know a lot of their people there. So I have respect for BCW because it was one of the companies that I helped build. So anyway, guys, you can ask questions.
All right. So.
Yes, I do. Who are you? How is it different working in different promotions as a young wrestler?
It's very humbling, because I feel like a lot of, I don't mean this in any sort of way, but I feel like there's a lot of talent, not just people that I know personally, but just in general. I've seen it even before I got into the business, where they're really used to working in that one promotion or for that one crowd, you know what I mean? And then when they, holy shit, and they almost get eaten alive. So I'm very humble and very grateful for the fact that I've been able to travel and see different people and see different crowds of different sizes and different places. And just, it's very educating, because you would think the way, oh, we have social media, we have television, we have all this stuff. So everybody knows what's going on, right? Nope. One day you'll be in Portland and you're working one person in this promotion, and then the next day you'll be in, let's just say, Ocean Shores, Washington, as the example, and it's a completely different audience. Like, it's just completely different. And the stuff that you would do to get yourself over in one promotion, it might not work in the other place. And then in one promotion, you might have a heated blood feud with somebody, and you hate their guts, and you want to pin them down, and you want to make them bleed. And then in another promotion, they might not know that side of you like that. They might just be like, hey, man, we just like you for being you. Like we just like Kobe. So it's very educating, I'd say, because it's sometimes, and especially in the business, it's very easy to get lost in like, oh, like this the video I posted got a lot of views, or like people are telling me like, oh, you're the shit, you know what I mean? And it's very easy to get lost in your mentality of that. So that's why I think it's important for wrestlers not just to train in the ring, but to train in the gym, because it really clears my mind. It really refocuses me and goes, okay, that was last week. That was last week. I had my 24-hour, celebration and promoting that. Now it's time to focus on what's next. Now it's time to move forward on where we're going next week or next month. Even stuff that might be planned out a year from now. It's all in preparation. Like, I've been there before, which is why I'm very fortunate to have the short career that I've had so far. I've been there before, where you're like, oh man, last week they were feeling me. You know what I mean? I'm going to be in the same city, at the same building, on the same day next week, and it's going to be incredible. And you go out there, and it's almost like it starts from scratch all over again. And it's a wake up call. Like this isn't. Even if you did have $1 million Sheen back behind you, one night you're going to be on television in front of a bunch of people, and then the next night you could be at some random house show in Corpus Christi, Texas, or in some Fresno, California, and some of these people may have never heard of you before. Some of these people don't go on social media. They don't watch TV. They don't follow your every single move, and you're going to have to show them not just what they're missing, but what you can bring to the future, why they should come back. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned from wrestling in multiple different promotions, and not just making people care in the moment, but how do I keep the same energy that I have on this match from this month? How do I keep that same energy for 3 months from now when I come back? It could be 6 months from now when I come back. How do I keep people invested and not oversaturate my product or undersaturate it and have people go, oh, where'd he go? We have no idea where he's at. And I learned that just from listening, to other veterans. And when I say I learned that, I don't mean that I've mastered it and I know everything. I just mean like it's an everyday thing. It's an everyday process. It's calling people, it's texting people, it's asking questions, it's doing your homework, it's going online, and that's listen to the facts. You need to write down the facts. You need to pay attention because, it's not just about kicking it backstage. It's not just about hanging out. It's not just about going out, after the shows or hanging out during the week. And it's like when I'm not in the ring at the wrestling shows and when I'm not just helping set up and tear down and listening to the veterans, like I'm on this shit every day. Like there's people that think that I'm crazy, you know what I mean? Because they just don't understand the hunger that it takes to really want to get better at this. And it's the thing, it's not just going to the gym. It's not just going to the wrestling gym. It's not just, you got to do your homework. You got to sit there with the notepad and a pen and you got to really watch this stuff and study it and really figure it out. You got to watch old interviews of guys that aren't even on the earth anymore, and you got to listen to what they're saying because they're trying to tell you that it's not just going to be a walk in the park. And if you think it's going to be a walk in the park, you'll get washed out because they're not going to tolerate it. They're not going to put up with that. You got to remain professional. You got to keep up on your appearance. You got to keep up on how you look. This business is very aesthetic. That's another thing that a lot of people don't understand. People can tell. I've been my weight has fluctuated so many times in this short year being in the wrestling business. People will be like, "Oh, you look really good. You lost a lot of weight." And then if you show up and and you're bloated and you haven't been on top of your training, people notice. People notice when you're slower in the ring. People notice when you're breathing heavy and you can't give them what they came to see. People spend their hard-earned money to come to these shows. Doesn't matter if the tickets are, $20, $50, $500. Like these people come to these shows because they want to see some action. Goddamn it! And if you're not doing your homework, and if you're not doing your cardio, if you're not lifting as heavy as possible and doing your diet, you know, then like what the fuck are we doing, boys? You know what I mean? Like that's how I was told. You know what I mean? That's what I was taught. That like it's up to you. You know what I mean? You can't worry about what everybody else is doing. It's up to you. And if you put yourself in the best position possible, then when you get in the ring with other people, they'll notice and they'll want to work with you and they'll want to give you advice and they'll want to listen to what little bit of opinion that you might have on this business so far, because you're showing that you're trying to get the reps in and you're showing that you're trying to give respect. And, you know, it's like, you know, not to say other people, but even myself, you know, it's not about how much money you make. It's not about, you know, the quality of everything that you're doing. You just need to be doing it. You know, I used to have nothing but a broken screen on a phone and a bad pair of headphones, and I would still take notes. You know what I mean? I'd still put in the work. I used to, you know, before I was eating rice and potatoes and steak, you know, I was eating cans of tuna and cans of chicken and like Top Ramen and doing 100 push-ups in my room. You know what I mean? Like you can see it in the eyes of people who really want it, who really are willing to go to that edge that a lot of people, they're just not willing to do it.
Right. And I agree with that because I do the same thing, you know, as far as like studying stuff and like watching like wrestling, even when I'm not doing this. So,
Absolutely.
So what's the best advice your trainers ever given you, and do you still use that advice today?
If you're going to do something, do it. Don't just,
Amen, brother.
don't just, you know, lightly tap somebody and then kind of half-ass something. Like, if you're going to fucking throw a clothesline that motherfucker. Like, if you're going to do a leapfrog, like, jump, bitch. Like, get over that motherfucker. Like, if you're gonna talk shit and you're gonna be if you want to be a bad guy, then talk shit. Like, don't worry about hurting people's feelings. Like, if you're gonna do something, do it. Like, don't phone it in. Don't half-ass it. Like, if you're gonna hit a splash, motherfucker, get as high as you can without hitting your head on the ceiling and crash. Like that's like the biggest piece of advice I've ever learned from my trainer, where he was like, even in terms of eating a move, like if you're gonna be in this ring, you're not just gonna do shit to people and expect them just to be like, oh yeah, that was great. Like, you're gonna have to eat shit, bro. You're gonna have to take some toes to the bottom lip and get busted open. You're gonna have to go home with blisters on your chest. You're gonna have to eat those lariats and fucking land. Like, this is not like it's not ballet. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just some shit that we put together and it's easy. Like, this is a fight. People came to see us fight. So when we're in that ring, like, if you give it to me, I'll give it to you. You know what I mean? But like, that's the only way that people are going to be into it. If you're going to do something, do it.
So I got to reiterate on that. That's great, because you kind of got me fired up there for like about a 3-minute period. I don't know if you saw me like raising my hand and all that. So I was always taught by Sandy Barr that if you couldn't lay it in, then why the fuck are you in there? That was
Exactly.
a Sandy Barrism right there. You just did a Sandy Barrism right there, man. If we're in a fight, we're in a fight. Okay, so my question is to you then, do you prefer more rough style wrestling, or do you prefer like the 85 flips in 2 minutes shit?
Man, everybody that I was ever trained by, whether that be my personal trainer, Karen Starr, or the time that I was spent at the I'm sorry?
Oh, no, just go ahead.
You're good.
Oh, okay, for sure. whether it was my original trainer, Cameron Starr, whether it was the guys that I've met at Oregon Pro Wrestling School for the little bit of time that I spent there. Like that's the style that I was taught. Like not you don't want to be you don't want to be a fucking mark for yourself and just in there doing shit you don't know how to do. But like, you know, almost to what T-Rex said, like if you're gonna fucking hit me, like hit me, bro. Like don't kill me. Don't make it to where I can't work tomorrow, but like hit me. You know what I mean? Like fucking it's okay. Like I have a body that needs to be touched. We need to make contact. Like this shit with like because even the guys I mentioned before, like Styles and Daniels, like they fucking go. You know what I mean? When it's time to go, they go. And they can go up against big guys, they can go up against small guys and make you go, holy shit, man, like he turned his ass inside out. Like that's wrestling to me. Like whether you're doing a headlock takeover or whether you're doing a German suplex or whatever it is, like you need to hit it, bro. Like you need to connect, you need to make contact. Like there's no myth. I hate it when people say like, oh, like there's a reason why it's that loud when you land, right? Or there's a reason, you know, you hugged it out, right? And it's like, nah, that motherfucker really picked me up and threw me over his fucking head, and I just braced for impact. Like that's the way that I was taught wrestling, and I'm not in there to fucking force my will upon anybody and break anybody's arms or do anything like that. But like, I'm you know, stretch me out, bro. Like,
Hey,
fight me.
Rex Michelson wants his arm broken.
You get that poor boy in trouble.
No, I don't.
All right. So before we move on, speaking of Mr. Starr, T-Rex, I know you weren't on the stream earlier, so I broke this to Mr. Michelson and the crippled EA already. We will have Mr. Cameron Starr on this very podcast on the 19th at 11 a.m. That is confirmed. That is booked.
That's a hell of a. I'm gonna say that's a hell of a guest to get too, because you want old school and you want punch you in the mouth. That's Cameron Starr.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure I'm sure that Mr. up here, I can't see his name on my screen, but Tipster. What's his name? The kid's talking that we've been interviewing. I guarantee you, he'll tell you Cameron Starr is one of the hardest hitting guys you're ever going to see in there.
Hands down. Absolutely.
I still want you. I still got dibs on who's going to do that to Mikey first. Who's going to give him the up and over on a clothesline on Rex Michelson? Who's going to give him the up and over as his first ref? You want? I'm taking a volunteer to have him take his first real bump.
So why don't we let, now since we can actually see his face with better lighting, why don't we let Mr. Michelson ask a question?
Before we go, okay.
What are your top 5 female indie stars?
Okay. That one's the same thing. It's kind of hard. A lot of them have gotten signed by this point. I remember watching like Nikki Cross back when she was Nikki Siren. Bea Priestley before she got signed. I think now in WWE they call her Piper Niven, but back when she was Viper in England, I remember watching her and thinking that she was really good. The red-haired girl that's also from the UK. I don't want to botch her name. Is it not Kaylee Ray? Is it Kaylee Ray?
It used to be Kaylee Ray. Now it's Alba Fire.
Alba Fire. Yeah, I think that's her. Yeah, I remember she was really good. Millie McKenzie, she was another UK girl. She used to run around with Pete Dunne and all the Strong Boys and all that stuff. And I'll give you one more. And she signed with Impact now, but Jordan Grace. I remember watching Jordan Grace like years and years and years ago before she ever appeared on Impact. Before, like, now she's in like almost incredible like bodybuilding shape. But I remember watching her, you know, back when she was, I don't want to say just place indie wrestler chick here, but just you know, it's interesting. It's interesting watching people grow. It's interesting seeing them from a spot where you're like, oh, that's great. You know, you're an independent wrestler. You have a lot of clout, and seeing where they're at now, and it's like, wow, that person really put in the work and really transformed themselves and really made not a lot of excuses and just, you know, made their way to the top. So I think that was 6 names, but yeah, Viper, Kaylee Ray, Jordan Grace, Millie McKenzie, and I spaced the name at the end right there, but yeah, there's just people like that where you watch them from like years and years. Oh, Nikki Sirens, Nikki Cross, that's who it was. Just people you've seen like elevate and grow as the years go by, and then when you see them hit the big stage, you're like, yeah, that person definitely deserves it. Not saying that nobody else is putting in the work, but those people, it's the same thing that I said when you're in the ring with somebody. Like, you can really see it when somebody really wants it that bad, and you can tell that they put in the work to get it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Crippled Messiah, why don't you ask your final question, then I'll go into closing.
So where can we find you on social media, and what's your next upcoming match?
So on social media, on Facebook, you can follow me. I have a page, Kobayas Top FBG, on Facebook, and that's a page that I'm gonna soon start posting merchandise and just updates and stuff like that. On my main page, Kobe Smith, is where you can find me promoting my booking, promoting events like this podcast. It's more of it's my personal page, but I'm really focused in on wrestling and sharing a lot of information about nutrition and bodybuilding right now. So you can follow me, Kobe Smith on Facebook, Kobayas Tops FBG on Instagram, Kobayas FBG. That's at Kobayas FBG. Same thing on that account. Like, I post a lot of information, not just about me wrestling and promoting my matches, but I post information on nutrition and diet and bodybuilding. And when I say bodybuilding, it's not just guys with a lot of muscle and trying to get big. If you're trying to like do body recomposition, or if you're trying to just lose weight, like there's somebody I know right now who has been working out with me for the last couple months, and I've already got him down 30 pounds. And there's no special tricks. There's no special licks. Like, it's literally just hard, like, not even a super hard diet. Just eating lots of protein, eating good carbs, you know, making sure you're getting your nutrients in and training properly, not overtraining, not selling yourself short, but just training properly. And I've had people that have been scared, you know, to train like that. But once you really get into it, you get the best results that you could possibly get. So, yeah, you can follow me, Facebook, Kobe Smith, Kobayas Tops FBG, on Instagram at Kobayas FBG. I don't have a Twitter. I'm not with that bullshit. I'm sorry. You have to fucking pay me a lot of fucking money and have somebody else run that shit if you want me to have a Twitter again. And most of that shit ends up coming into my own feed on the other social media sites anyway. On YouTube, just type in Kobayas Top, and my channel will come up. My matches will come up. So yeah, I'm mainly on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Those are the 3 places you can find me. Everything else, it is what it is, dog. Like, if people want TikToks and to be on Twitter sharing their micro opinions all day, it means very little to me and my success. So that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, we would like to thank you for coming on. We would like to also thank you, and you're welcome back at any time. Nathan, I know that you've been biting the bit to ask, but let me finish up first, and then you can ask the final question. Yes, that question.
Okay.
We at Inclusion Matters podcast are also a brand new promotion starting up here in the state of Washington very, very soon. We're called Inclusion Pro Wrestling. What makes this wrestling company unique are the three gentlemen on the screen with me are all in some way disabled. And at some point, each one of these gentlemen, believe it or not, even our Hall of Famer, has been told, you don't belong in the wrestling business and you won't amount to anything. So this is their company to tell the doubters and the naysayers, F you. Look at us now. And so I am glad to be a part of that promotion with them. And Nathan, you can go ahead and end with the sponsors and with the invite.
Okay, I'm gonna do the invite first. We would love to have you come to our and wrestle for us if you're available for our show.
Yeah, I'd be more than open to that. Just let me know when, as long as there's some time in advance. I'd be more than open to that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very cool. And our first show will be, or one of our first big shows will be a benefit show for the Special Olympics.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible, guys. That's incredible.
And then our sponsors are the CARE program, which stands for Community Action Reaching Everybody. And you get a hold of the lady that's in charge of that is Becky Bernhardt. And Bruce Nichols Painting for all your painting, pressure washing, and bed removal needs. And you can find him on Angie's.
All right. So again, for the Crippled Messiah, for the Hall of Famer, the GOAT, Mr. 15,000, Mr. T-Rex, for the God, whatever he is, he can go find himself in another garbage can, Rex Michelson. I'm the Heartbreaker. Thank you again to Kobe for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
If I could say one more thing, if I could say one more thing before we sign off. One more thing. The next show that you can catch me at will be July 29th, Blue Collar Wrestling. And then August 18th, I'll be at Rogue Wrestling Attractions at a big 6-man tag main event. And I just want to say, before we go, I have all the respect in the world to anybody that has ever trained me and anybody who has ever given me an opportunity to be in this business. So whether that's the Cameron Star or the guys at the Oregon Pro Wrestling School, or just anybody that has ever taken the time to put me in a corner and to give me knowledge, I just want to say thank you.
Very nice. All right.
That's Hall of Fame endorsed.
And I think we're just going to leave it on that, guys. We'll see you next time.